On this episode of the CJ Sweat Show, we're going to talk about Kirk Cousins being, pretty much let go by the Redskins. They have moved on and they have traded now for Alex Smith. We will also discuss, are the Los Angeles Clippers making room to make a move for LeBron James? And are the New England Patriots a little bit distracted heading into the Super Bowl? We've got all of that and more. This is the CJ Sweat Show, and we start right now. I'm not bringing the bias here. You are.
What do they do up there? Brainwash?
Hey, it's not my fault that your team is terrible.
Let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up.
This is just honest. I'm sorry if it hurts. Oh, wait, I'm not really sorry.
Put that coffee down.
You can't stop! Can't stop, won't stop. Where the brakes at? I give him that diddy bop. Like, take that, take that, take that, take that.
This is the CJ Sweat Show. We are now live and brought to you from Roanoke, Virginia by the good people over at Byers Auto. I am joined by my co-host, Christopher Mason. Chris, how are you?
I'm doing great today, CJ. Thanks for asking. How are you?
Doing absolutely fantastic. Starting to get a little bit warmer outside. It is the end of January. We're approaching February, which means Groundhog's Day is just around the corner. We got the Super Bowl on Sunday, which should be absolutely fantastic. Excited about that. But I'm going to lead things off with something that I honestly didn't know until late last night we would even be discussing. And that is the Washington Redskins have traded for Alex Smith. Most of you all know I'm a big Washington Redskins fan. I think I've made that pretty clear. But most of you also know when I approach the show, I like to approach it with absolutely no bias. Now, last night, there was the State of the Union, right? In the State of the Union, I mean, people like to say it's different. Like I heard a lot of people saying, best State of the Union since Reagan. Okay, let's cut it out. The State of the Union is the same every single year. But whenever it's a Republican giving the State of the Union, it's always best since Reagan. And whenever it's a Democrat giving a State of the Union, it's always best since Clinton. And then, like, when you get to, like, the Democrat response, and, you had I think it was Joe Kennedy was up there last night, and it's like, every Democrat's like, this is the best we've ever had, like, he's going to be amazing, he's the next president. It's like, Republicans go to Fox News to become more entrenched in their views, and liberals go to MSNBC to become more entrenched in their views, and I've never been a believer in simply becoming more entrenched in my own views. So, last night I see this trade come across, and I gotta tell you, my initial reaction was, I was pissed, quite frankly. Might be an understatement. Chris and I were exchanging some texts last night. I think you definitely know I was pretty upset about it. But I've had some time last night, this morning, today, to kind of think about, okay, what's really happening here? And I always come back to this one quote that's been my favorite quote over the past several years, and that is, life is never as good as it seems, and it's never as bad as it seems. It's always somewhere in the middle, kind of tilting towards one side. So let's look at this actual trade with Kirk Cousins. It's honestly not the worst thing in the world to go and acquire Alex Smith. I mean, I look at Alex Smith, first thing I see is he doesn't turn the ball over very often. He throws hardly any interceptions. Kirk Cousins this year threw 13 picks and had 13 fumbles, 27 touchdowns. That's not a very good ratio. Alex Smith, on converse, threw 28 touchdowns, had only 5 interceptions. He does not turn the ball over. So I don't think getting Alex Smith is a bad thing, and Alex Smith is known around the league as a total pro. He's known as a very classy guy. He's a great guy to have in the locker room. He's been very good with Andy Reid. He's been to playoffs multiple times, even had a nice playoff run. But what this feels like, so similar. Like, if you're a Redskins fan, you have got to be having deja vu this evening. Because I'm sitting here going, we did the same thing not too long ago. Remember Donovan McNabb? Donovan McNabb and Alex Smith are essentially the same guy. Although Donovan McNabb, not as good. Didn't complete as many passes, through a few more interceptions a season. Alex Smith, maybe not as athletic, but still pretty athletic. For the most part, though, they're the same guy. They're dink and dunk. They're going to be super conservative in their approach to the game. You're not going to get a lot of long passes. They will win a lot of games. And by the way, the Redskins get both of them at age 32. Now, the benefit of the Redskins here is Alex Smith is a little bit healthier, so that's the big plus, and that makes it feel a little bit different. But if you're a Redskins fan this evening, you got to be having deja vu. It's the same exact thing. My problem with the trade last night was that it was not that the Redskins are exchanging Alex Smith for Kirk Cousins. Quite frankly, Alex Smith, I believe, is a better quarterback than Kirk Cousins, and Alex Smith costs less. So anytime you can get better and pay less is a win. But at the same time, what is not being discussed is the Redskins had to give up Kendall Fuller in a third-round draft pick for this. Now, the third-round draft pick I don't care about, but the Redskins secondary for the past forever has been absolutely abysmal. And Kendall Fuller has been the one highlight of that secondary. Even Josh Norman, who is the one star on that defense, he's overpaid. And it's becoming quite obvious. He gets burned way too often. He can barely keep up with Dez Bryant, who was way down in production this year. So you're going to trade away the best slot corner in the league, Kendall Fuller, and all you're doing is moving laterally in quarterback. I mean, I think Alex Smith is better than Kirk Cousins. It's not significant, though. It's slightly. He is slightly better than Kirk Cousins. If this were Drew Brees, I would totally get it. If it were Carson Wentz, I would certainly get it. If this were, another aging quarterback, if this was for Tony Romo a couple of years ago, would totally understand it. If it were for Ben Roethlisberger, I'd get it. But it's Alex Smith, who only has one nice run in the playoffs, and that's about it for his entire career. Wins a lot of games, that's great. Not great in the playoffs. And I look around, Alex Smith has been playing in the AFC. He was outplayed in a playoff game by Marcus Mariota. Now you're going into the NFC. You have to play Carson Wentz. And you're going to have to play the Giants, who are going to get a good quarterback. And you're going to have to play, Jared Goff, who's going to get better. And you're going to have to play the Vikings defense. This is not the AFC, buddy. This is the NFC. It's a little bit difficult here. Now, the one thing I do like, and this is where I'll support the Redskins, is Kirk Cousins against Dak Prescott is 0-4. Couldn't beat him. And I got to tell you, he was going to have a no-win record against Carson Wentz, too. That was going to become a thing. I watched him play twice. Carson Wentz completely ran him out of the stadium both times. And by the way, Kirk Cousins at home, night games, has really not been good. Had one nice win against Aaron Rodgers. It was raining on a Sunday night. That was great. Other than that, Kirk Cousins has not been great in these home night games. So I get some of this. I do. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. But at the same time, anybody that's looking at this thinking the Redskins got significantly better and made a smart decision, I completely disagree. Now here is where, so right now I look at this trade and I say the Redskins got about a C in this trade. Maybe a slight upgrade in quarterback. For the most part, you moved laterally. So I'm going to give it a C. But there is one thing the Redskins could do to make this go from a C to an A+. And that is draft a quarterback who you can develop over the next couple of years. Because if Alex Smith can sit there for 2 to 3 years, play really nice, which, I'm looking at his stats. He had the highest quarterback rating in the league this year at 105.4. The guy can play. There's no doubting that. So if he can just stick out for another 2 to 3 years, you can bring in a guy like Josh Allen. Or I'll even throw somebody else out there. Baker Mayfield. You can bring him in. And if he sits behind Alex Smith, who's known as a leader, who's known as a hard worker, he's a guy who watches film. He likes to watch film. First one into the office, last one out type of guy. And the young guy you bring in can learn from that, then I will upgrade this to an A+. Because then that tells me, okay, I completely understand the direction of the franchise here. And you better have a plan like that, because I tell you, Carson Wentz and the Eagles, they're going to be around for the next 10 to 12 years. Dak Prescott, who I don't think is great, he's good enough to keep the Cowboys competitive for the next 8 to 10 years. And the Giants are going to go out this year, and I fully believe they're going to get Josh Rosen. And I believe Josh Rosen is the next great one in the NFL. Like, I don't believe he's just good, capable. Josh Rosen, I think, is going to come on the scene and blow everybody away. And if he gets to sit behind Eli Manning for a year, he'll be that much better. So everybody in your division has a long-term plan. I will favor this trade. I will like this trade if you can show me this is part of the long-term plan. Now, we'll say this about Kirk Cousins. I like Kirk Cousins. But, Kirk, you have now lost a lot of leverage in this because the only teams out there willing to go after you are like the Broncos are going to go after you, the Jets will go after you, Jacksonville will go after you, and Cleveland will go after you. And here's what I'll say about Jacksonville and Denver. Denver is run by John Elway. Jacksonville is run by Tom Coughlin. Those two guys are not going to pay you $30 million a year like you want. They're not going to do it. Cleveland might do it, but if you go to Cleveland and they pay you $30 million a year, they're not going to have any room to get anybody else, and you're going to the worst franchise in the NFL. So that's not like you're going to go there and lose a lot. Congratulations on that. And Jacksonville looks like a hot option right now. Let me tell you something about Jacksonville. They play in the same division as Houston, who has Deshaun Watson coming back next year. They play in the same division as Tennessee, who has Marcus Mariota and a new coach coming in next year. And they play in the same division as Indianapolis, who is getting Josh McDaniels, an offensive mind, to play with Andrew Luck. So you go ahead and you go down there to Jacksonville, where you're going to have Leonard Fournette, you're going to play in super hot weather, and you're going to have an ownership that really hasn't been consistent over the past few years. Now, I like Tom Coughlin, I really do. But that's not a long-term option for you. And they're not going to pay you what you want. So, I mean, and by the way, you go to the Jets, congratulations. You're going to go to the second most popular franchise in New York, where you will get criticized your entire career, never be appreciated, and by the way, not win a lot of games. I mean, you're not going to win a lot of games. So you take those options. If it were me, I would take less money. I'd go to Denver in a heartbeat, play for Elway, where they've got a great defense, and I'd play in the AFC West, where you've got the dysfunctional Raiders, the Chiefs, who right now are relying on Pat Mahomes, who I like, don't love, and the Chargers, who are going to have to move on from Phillip Rivers. That, to me, is what I do. But you're not going to get $30 million a year. You're not getting that. And so, in that regard, I think the Redskins made a smart move by not paying him that much money. So, again, it's like I said, it's not as bad as it seems. It's not the end of the world. The Redskins are going to be competitive. You get a good quarterback. But you did not get a significant upgrade from Cousins, and you had to trade away a really good cornerback to do it. That I don't like. Should also be noted, Alex Smith was going to be a free agent this year. So it's not like it would have been impossible to just not trade anything and then go and sign him in free agency. Now, at that point, you're competing with the rest of the league, but I'd be willing to gamble my chances there. I really would. All right, Chris, hope you're doing well tonight. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, lateral trade, I agree with you. The chat, by the way, in Facebook is going off. A lot of conversation about Wayne Gretzky, going back to that, Bruce Wayne, and we also have a new listener in the chat, Brad Roeder, who may come into play later on. Hey, Brad, how's it going? Also, what we want to talk about is, I think there's a couple things. The Redskins are not doing this for later on. They're not doing this to develop a quarterback and have him play behind Alex Smith. They're doing this to have a quarterback that can play better today. Today, I think Alex Smith is better. Safer, maybe fits better in the lineup. You've still got to figure out what you're doing in the running back. You've got a couple capable running backs, but not yet a star. They really need to draft or trade for a solid running back this year. That would put the team together, and really, and then what you do from there is fix what you're doing on defense. That's my scare of Washington. Obviously, being a Dallas fan, I don't want Washington to be good.
Well, no, you bring up a good point about the running backs. This is the one thing Alex Smith has always had. He's always had a really good running back. I mean, when he was with the 49ers, he had Frank Gore, who's still playing in the league and is amazing. When he's been with the Chiefs, he had Jamal Charles. He's had, who's that new kid this year? The rookie.
Hurt?
No, not Hurts. Rookie running back. I'm blanking on his name. They've got two over there. Both of them are really, really good. and I'm blanking on their names right now. But I mean, like, Alex Smith has always had phenomenal running backs. The Redskins have one of the best kept streakers in the NFC, Chris Thompson, but he's more of a screen type running back. He's not going to run for a lot of yards. You've got to get somebody that's going to help you keep leads at the end of games. Because, I watched the Redskins play the Saints this year. You let them get back in the game because you didn't have a defensive pass rush, and you did not have a running back. You got to get one of those two.
Kareem Hunt.
Kareem Hunt, that's the one I was thinking of. Yeah. So when they bring in Kareem Hunt, he was an absolute stud for Alex Smith. When Alex Smith is good, he always has a good running back. So you're not going to be able to win without that. And like Kirk Cousins, by the way, I know his stats don't look as good. I do believe Alex Smith is better than Kirk, but I'll say this for Kirk Cousins. The only time he had good receivers, it was Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon. Deshaun Jackson is an absolute mess to have in a locker room. Both of them left. He's never really had a great tight end that's been able to stick around for a very long time, and he's never had a running back, and he has still produced really nice statistics. I mean, last year he was top 5 in the NFL in passing yards. This year, top 10. There's something goes for being able to produce when you don't have a lot around you. And that is one thing he has not had. All right, so we're going to take a break. Oh, wait, before we take a break, real quick. I think Kirk Cousins should go to Denver. I think it makes the most sense. I think they've got good ownership. It's a tough place for opponents to play. And they've got a really nice roster around them. If you're Kirk Cousins today, where do you go?
Where do I want to go? There's 4 or 5 teams that you said would take him. I completely disagree about the Jags. They are in love with Bortles. They're never getting rid of him. He'll be the quarterback in Jacksonville for the next 5 years minimum. So what's left is the Jets, Arizona, Denver, and Cleveland.
To me, Arizona out of those choices, Arizona and Cleveland, that's the money play. They'll give you money, but you're not going to be competitive.
Sure. So Arizona can be competitive. They're not competitive today, but they can be soon.
Not if they have to pay him that much money.
If you're going to win, Denver, if you're going to get paid and maybe put some pieces together, Arizona. If it's me, I'm trying to get paid, I'm going to Arizona.
You're trying to get paid, you're going to Arizona?
And I don't want to be on a crappy team either, so I don't want to go to Cleveland.
See, this is my biggest problem with things we look at in football. Like, everybody's so concerned about 2 things. 1, where do you get drafted? And 2, what's your salary going to be? Look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady was drafted in the 6th round. Tom Brady gets paid $9 million a year. That $9 million a year, by the way, does not matter to Tom Brady. Why? Because he has endorsements through the roof. He married a supermodel, and he's writing a book. Like, the $9 million a year is really just so he still feels like he has leverage in the organization. He was drafted in the 6th round. You know how many great players we've had drafted in the 1st and 2nd round who never made it in the NFL? I mean, Johnny Manziel, Tim Tebow, just to name a few off the top of my head. I mean, like, guys get drafted in the 1st round and never do squat. You can get paid in the NFL. We've had a lot of quarterbacks get a lot of big money in the NFL, and then once they get paid, they don't produce. So, like, if it were me, I would take less money. I'd go play for Denver. I think it's got an incredible roster. That's what I would do. All right, we're going to take a break. On the other side of this break, Chris Mason's got the news, and are the Los Angeles Clippers, they look like they're trying to rebuild, but is this a move to get LeBron James? All of that and more on the other side of this break. This is the CJ Sweat Show. We'll be right back.
There's nothing left to say. I know where I'm going. We're starting here today. And you know that right. You know that's right.
Hey, it's your favorite redhead, CJ. I'm sure by now you've heard my opening rant, CJ Thoughts. Well, let me give you my thoughts on the car buying process. If you're like me, when you go to buy a car, you just want to find something reliable with decent payments. I'm not talking about going to the local guy down the street looking to make a quick sell. Buyers Auto has been around for over 100 years. and they're going to take time to ensure you're buying a car specifically fit for your needs. That's why I'll trust Buyers Auto with the purchase of my next car. Buy your auto from Buyers Auto. Thanks for joining us on this beautiful Wednesday evening. Always a pleasure to be with you. Again, we have big news coming up at the end of the podcast. Stay tuned for it. You don't want to miss this big news announcement concerning the podcast. I'm very excited to get to that. A lot of exciting things happening here tonight. All right, now we are going to get to our weekly news segment brought to you by our infamous newsman, our co-host, Christopher Mason, with the news.
All right, today in the news, we are 4 days away from the big game in the NFL. The New England Patriots will face the Philadelphia Eagles in Minneapolis, Minnesota. For all these sports bettors out there, the current line is down to Patriots -4.
Patriots -4?
Where you put
it
your
was
money?
4.5 yesterday.
It opened at 6.
Opened at 6.
Moved all the way down to 4.
Wow. Now that's big. We'll get into our predictions later in the podcast.
All right.
And by the way, if you're listening, make sure you throw in the comments who you think wins the Super Bowl this weekend. I think something interesting is happening, and that's why this line is close. We'll get to that a little bit later. People know I love the Patriots, but I'm telling you, this thing's a lot closer than we said it was last week.
We have a big sports bettor in our listening right now, actually, to Facebook Live, and apparently he dropped a bunch of money on the Philadelphia Eagles, so to be determined. Continuing on, Alex Smith, as you mentioned, was traded to from the Kansas City Chiefs to the Washington Redskins. This is opening up what could be a domino of quarterback trades and moves in the NFL.
Well, here's the interesting one. He's not signed a contract yet. Drew Brees is scheduled to be a free agent at the end of this year. I don't think he'll move because he's come out and said how much he loves New Orleans and he's been there forever. You know, like he played with them through Katrina, got them to that Super Bowl. I don't think he'll move, but I know there's been beef with him and Sean Payton before. And like if that were me, there's a lot of better organizations to go and play for than that mess. So I'd keep your eye on that one. Obviously, Kirk Cousins is now open up to be a free agent. And then you've got the situation up in Minnesota with Bridgewater, Case Keenum, and Sam Bradford. Certainly a team could make a trade to acquire one of them. So, this is the start of what's going to become the most active quarterback season we've had in quite a long time.
Very much. Big news out of the WWE. I don't know if you saw this, but former UFC champion, women's champion, Ronda Rousey has joined the WWE. She made her first very unexpected experience during the Royal Rumble last Saturday.
What do you think? So Vince McMahon is the manager, owner, whatever of WWE. So he had two big news items happen this week. So Ronda Rousey is now part of the WWE. And did you hear the other news? XFL is back. So for Vince McMahon, what was bigger news? Ronda Rousey joining UFC or joining WWE, or the XFL coming back?
By far, Ronda Rousey.
By far, Ronda Rousey. I completely agree.
Yeah, who cares about the XFL?
Yeah, no, XFL is going to last for about a year, maybe two, and then it will fade away because people are going to watch it and be like, "This is crazy." And football just does not cater to crazy.
Yeah. All right, a lot of news in the NBA, so I'm just going to stream through a lot of news right here. We had several big injuries, including 2 All-Stars. DeMarcus Cousins tore his Achilles in the game against the Rockets. That game was amazing, by the way. DeMarcus Cousins was on a run to be perhaps the best player in the NBA this year. So anyway, that obviously came to a halting end. Kevin Love suffered a hand injury, likely out for 6 to 8 weeks. John Wall will undergo knee surgery. He's out also for 6 to 8 weeks. And James Harden last night scored 60 points against the Orlando Magic to become the first player in history to score a triple-double, to have a triple-double scoring 60 points.
Okay, yeah, everybody's talking about he scored 60 points, and I know he got a triple-double. I'm so sick of the stats in basketball. It's a January game against the worst team in the league. Like, LeBron tomorrow, if he wanted to score 60 points and have a triple-double against the Orlando Magic, LeBron could do that. Kobe could do that. Kobe did do that. I mean, I know he didn't get the triple-double and score 60-plus points, but, like, these stats, if you're, like, in the upper echelon of NBA players, in a mid-January game, you can manufacture just about whatever you want. This is why Russell Westbrook got a triple-double. Like, I started watching those games, and I'm like, mid-February, I'm like, he's manufacturing and manipulating every single game to make sure he gets a triple-double. And, James Harden last night was great, obviously filling it, had a great shot last night. He's one of the best players in the NBA, but the overreaction was absolutely ridiculous. There were Houston Rockets announcers last night saying it was the most impressive, it was more impressive than anything Hakeem Olajuwon did. Like, Hakeem Olajuwon is an NBA legend. You cannot tell me what James Harden did in a mid-January game against the worst team in the NBA is more impressive than anything Olajuwon did. That to me was the biggest load of bull I've ever heard. Now, it's great. It's impressive, obviously. Not just anybody in the NBA could do it, but I'm not going to be completely enamored with the mid-January performance against the Magic.
All right, closing out of the NBA, Blake Griffin was traded to the LA Clippers and over from the LA Clippers to the Detroit Pistons. I know we have more on that later on tonight, so we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Tennis news: Roger Federer, to CJ's surprise, won the Australian Open. This is his 20th major title.
This is also the third time we've ever discussed tennis on the podcast.
Yeah, last week was the second. And closing out the news, today is National Inspire Your Heart with Art Day, and that is your news.
It's National Inspire Your Heart Day. It's also National Backward Day. I don't know if you knew that.
National Backward Day.
Yeah, National Backward Day. All right, so let's see. Let's move on. Let's segue to this. So the Clippers traded Blake Griffin. They are now rumored to be moving DeAndre Jordan. And Clipper fans this evening look at this and they are in absolute turmoil. They believe this is the worst thing to ever happen to the franchise. You've lost now your star. I got news for you. Blake Griffin was never going to win you an NBA title. It just wasn't. He wasn't. And by the way, without Chris Paul, you weren't going to win an NBA playoff game, let alone a playoff series. So don't even get me started on a title. All of this is the Clippers making room to acquire LeBron James. Because the rumor has now come out that LeBron wants out of Cleveland. And it is a very real rumor. This is why right now the Cleveland Cavaliers are rumored to be going up for sale at some point soon. Because the sell, by the way, will be made with the point of you can come here and try and convince LeBron to stay. And a new owner might certainly be capable of doing that. But the fact remains, the rumor of LeBron leaving is absolutely real, and I think he's definitely out. And the Clippers are looking at this going, if the Lakers get him, we're going to be completely terrible for the next 5 to 10 years, and the Lakers are going to be great. This is going to be the same thing when Kobe and Shaq teamed up together. They will be great, we'll be awful. And I know Steve, I'm blanking on his last name. I forget his last name. The guy from Microsoft, owner of the Clippers. I know his name is Steve, so that's the most important. I know he's very aggressive. This is how he managed Microsoft, was by being very aggressive. There's no joke. The Clippers are making a play to try and get LeBron James. Here's the thing, though.
Steve
Ballmer. That's what it is. Told you his name was Steve. I can get that part right. Here's the top 5 places for LeBron to go. Because it's not the Clippers. And the Clippers are going to make a move for him. It's not the Clippers. LeBron should go 5 different places. I'm going to start 5 and work my way up to 1. At 5th, I've got San Antonio. This move is great because LeBron and Popovich would be such a great combination. LeBron really hasn't ever had a great coach. I mean, like Eric Spoelstra, the coach of the Miami Heat, was the best coach LeBron ever had. He's considered by many people to be average. If you took LeBron and Popovich, and then you combine that with Kawhi Leonard and LaMarcus Aldridge, that would be the most physically daunting team in the NBA, and LeBron could play perimeter defense and not have to worry about anything that happens beneath the basket. So he could take Steph Curry, he could take Kevin Durant, and completely take them out of the game. That to me is the 5th best place for LeBron to go. And number 4, I've got the Houston Rockets. James Harden and Chris Paul are a lethal combo. That has been proven. Both are capable of scoring, and Chris Paul, at least, is a very good defender, on the perimeter, especially. The biggest problem here, though, is that the message LeBron would be sending if he went to join Houston is, I want to win titles. And if he goes to win titles, and you don't win at least 3, then people are going to look at you as second best, and you will be cemented as the second best to ever play the game, short of Michael Jordan. The other big problem I see from a basketball standpoint here is that LeBron would be forced to play down low. He's in his mid-30s. I think this would knock a solid year off of his career due to the physicality of the position he would have to play. So for that reason, we got Houston at 4. At 3rd, staying in the Western Conference, I put the Los Angeles Lakers. I don't care for LeVar Ball, but I do love Lonzo, and I love the direction of this franchise. Well coached, lots of shooters, fun to watch, Magic is managing, things are certainly on the up and up for the Lakers. My only problem here is that this team is full of babies, and you'd have to spend the last part of your career mentoring kids. I don't think that's a good look, and I think LeBron would get incredibly frustrated. At his mid-30s, you've got to play with grown-ups, not babies. Let's go second. Second best option for LeBron is the Philadelphia 76ers. Philadelphia is a basketball giant just now starting to wake up. You would have to work with a lot of kids. I understand. Same thing with the Lakers, so that's not ideal. But you do get one of the best point guards in the league in Ben Simmons, and you get a lot of nice role players who are grown-ups like J.J. Redick. Also, Joel Embiid is not bad to have there on the side. So I think the Sixers, plethora of shooters. You do got some young kids, but you've also got some nice older role players in there. Sixers, I put at number 2. And the top spot for LeBron, I've been saying this for months now. LeBron should go to the New York Knicks. And I fully believe this has legs. If it's about legacy, and if it's about brand, then how is New York not the perfect place? Forget chasing Jordan. Let the media debate that. Forget the number of titles. Who cares? You're LeBron. Be yourself. Win titles where you will be remembered. You won in Miami. You gave Cleveland their first title in, I don't know, how long? Forever? I mean, like the Indians, Browns, and Cavs have been a joke of every single sport they compete in. Go to New York and bring back the best basketball fan base in the country. Look at where sports are in New York City. The Giants are awful. The Jets are a smaller brand and just as bad as the Giants. The Nets are awful. The only team you have to compete with for attention is the New York Yankees, and there's really only about 2 months where your sports are going to cross paths. On a basketball front, you get Porzingis and Hardaway, 2 excellent perimeter defenders. If management can just get rid of Joakim Noah's contract, you could bring in one more star. You would be a matchup nightmare for Golden State and for the Houston Rockets. That, to me, is absolutely the best place for LeBron to go. And I don't know that'll do it. I think it's got legs, but also think LeBron likes to play with his friends. He's always wanted to play with Dwayne Wade. He likes Chris Paul a lot. So I don't know that he would go to New York. But I'm telling you, if LeBron could get there, that's absolutely his best option. Chris, you look at the NBA right now. If you're LeBron James, best player in the league for the past 15 years, where would you go if you went to cement yourself as the best player to ever play the game?
Do you actually agree with any of those teams?
What's that?
I just can't. I don't see any of it. I don't see any of that except for New York. Like, he's not going to the Lakers mainly because of Ball. Like, no one wants to put up with that kid.
He likes Ball. He likes Lonzo.
I know he's worked out with him and so forth, but yeah, sure, he likes Lonzo, but what about the dad? I mean, he's not going to L.A.
Well, see, I think LeBron, again, I don't like the dad, but I think LeBron's a big enough personality by himself where he can go into L.A. and he can tell LeVar, look, my team now. I'm the pro here. you're not. I'm going to take your son under my wing. You stop. I'm going to take control.
But
LeBron's got the personality to do that.
But Dad thinks he's better than LeBron. That's the thing. Dad thinks Lonzo's better than LeBron. And so that becomes a big issue. You've got too many big wigs there.
Well, see, the thing, though, is I think Magic could talk to LeVar and be like, hey, listen, here's the play we're going to make to try and get LeBron James. Here's what we need you to do to get him. Again, I think the dad is an issue, but at the same time, I mean, you know, like, I also think we're kind of making too big of a deal about this. I mean, how many AAU teams, how many high school teams, college teams have a problem with a dad on the team? I mean, like, that's actually, I mean, it's not common for the NBA, but it's certainly common for sports. And I think the Lakers have enough there to handle it. I mean, every AAU team in the country can handle a cranky dad.
Here's what I see happening. And I don't really see any better solution for LeBron than this, and I don't see any better team that improves as much getting LeBron. He's going to the Knicks in a combo deal with a shooting guard. So he plays the point forward. He loves to bring up the ball. Whatever team doesn't really need a point guard. I don't even know who the point guard is for the Knicks, to be honest with you, but they don't really have a shooting guard. So somebody like DeRozan, somebody like Bradley Beal, somebody that is very capable of handling the ball when needed, but is also one of the top shooting guards in the league. They play with Porzingis, LeBron, national championships, 3 out of the next 5 years.
Yeah, no, I could see that, especially, like, if they could get rid of the Noah contract,
Victor
they could bring in
Oladipo.
Paul George.
Doubtful. I mean, maybe that would be like best case scenario, but I don't think that happens.
But if they could do that, I mean, that's going to be tough to pull off. But if you can let go of Noah's contract, you would have the cap space to bring in Paul George. And if you can do that, I mean, there is no way Golden State would compete with that. Like, that would be the one team that over a 2-week period, you could beat Golden State 4 times in 2 weeks.
More likely is like Devin Booker, Oladipo, DeRozan, like those guys, the top. You know, all those guys are top 15 shooting guards in the league.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that is more likely.
Oladipo, you know, this is amazing about Russell Westbrook. Oladipo was amazing with the Magic. He goes to Oklahoma City. He's awful. Now he's where? He's at Indiana?
Yeah.
He's now an all-star. He's playing on an all-star team. Like, I don't know what that says about Russell Westbrook, but it's got to say something that the fact that Oladipo is great before you and great after you and abysmal with you. And LeBron, we know, makes players better. So, yeah, I love Oladipo to the Knicks. That's a really good thought. Okay, so let's segue to this. I want to talk about this because, you know, talking about Kirk Cousins, talking about Alex Smith. Here's the real debate, though. Where do these quarterbacks rank? And so Kirk Cousins right now is essentially a free agent, so we're not going to rank him. But I want to show you, if you're a Redskins fan, why you should maybe have some hope. So Chris and I have put together our top 16 quarterbacks. We put together a ranking of all 16 starting quarterbacks in the NFC. We're going to go 1 through 16. Actually, we'll go 16 through 1 and show you where Alex Smith ranks in the NFC. Now, if you're listening, I want you to tune in or to chime in on this on Facebook, on Spreaker, and let us know where you would have these quarterbacks ranked. So at 16th, who do you have ranked at 16th, Chris, with your quarterback rankings?
Quarterback rankings for the NFC, I have 16th. I don't have it pulled up yet. Why don't you go ahead and give us your...
Okay.
Sorry.
So at 16th, I've got Blaine Gabbert. He's the quarterback over at Arizona. I would not give Blaine Gabbert the time of day at any other franchise. I think he's mostly a placeholder there for the Cardinals. As Chris is looking to pull up his NFC quarterback rankings.
Yeah, I don't know where it's at. Let's go with this. I think Trubisky is my number 16. Again, I don't have it pulled up here. Yep, I guess right. Trubisky was who I put at number 16. And I just think that he's just completely unproven. I also have Gabbert ranked pretty low, though.
Yeah, well, you know, I told you Trubisky in the draft. I said Trubisky's going to be the biggest bust out of this thing. He completed 58% in college and didn't get to start till his senior year. And, I mean, like, he's playing against, you know, like, there is Virginia Tech and there's Miami. There's also Duke and NC State and Wake Forest and Boston College. Like, there's a lot of teams that just you should be completing more passes against. So Trubisky's not a surprise, and I've got him at number 15 for the same reasons.
Yeah, my number 15 is Jameis Winston. I just think there's way too much baggage there. He's not that great of a quarterback. Was great in college, but has proved to be a little bit immobile in the NFL.
I've got Jameis Winston at 14, actually. Same reason. Unproven mess, though, off the field. I mean, like, there's constant issues with him. I would not want him around. He's an incredible talent. He's got really good feet. He can throw a heck of a ball. But, I mean, the kid won't play with contacts. He honestly reminds me of an immature RG3. And that's not, you don't want to be an immature version of somebody who's already immature. So I'm not a big fan of Jameis Winston. I've got him at 14.
One of the things you want to look at are these guys coachable? And Winston has proven that he's not coachable.
Oh, absolutely.
So Gabbert is my number 14. Everything you mentioned. I told you when we met before the show, we hadn't shared yet, but our top 3 or 4 I knew were going to be pretty close, and our bottom 3 or 4 are going to be pretty close. But we're moving into this area where it's really a crapshoot in the middle here.
Yeah, when you get from about 5 or 6 to number 13, that's where this is going to get a little bit dicey. At 13th, I've got Eli Manning. Now, Eli, I know, gives you all the stats. He's had some great years. Giants fans love him. I'm going, who would I want as my quarterback right now? And Eli's aging. I mean, he just is. And we saw Peyton. I mean, one year he's good. The next year, I mean, like, he's throwing ducks. And it happens quick. And I think Eli has entered into that stage. I think he has trouble relating to some of the younger guys on the team. So I veteran quarterback to train a guy like Josh Rosen, that's great. But franchise quarterback for the next 5 years, I don't want him.
My number 13 is also Eli. Everything you said, completely agree. And he cannot move at all. He's slow, very slow in his aging.
Yeah. All right, so at number 12, I have Teddy Bridgewater. Now, let me say this. I like Bridgewater because Bridgewater extends the pocket. Bridgewater can throw a nice ball. But Bridgewater has now shown a history of being injury-prone. I don't like that. I do not like that. I'm seeing comments here. I do not like that for my franchise quarterback to be injury-prone. I want a guy who's going to stand upright most of the time. It was my one big complaint about RG3 is the guy gets injured too often. With this, Teddy Bridgewater gets injured, and let's be frank, he throws a nice ball, but he also, you have to keep things limited with him, and that I'm not crazy about. I like him in Minnesota where there's a dome, but you throw in the injuries and things, not my favorite. I've got him at 12.
I think you're crazy on that pick, and this is where things start to get a little weird. My number 12 is Cam Newton. Not worth the baggage, not that great. Big quarterback, but it will never, I should not say never, doubtful that he'll ever make it as far as they did in the past couple of years.
I honestly would have put like Teddy Bridgewater and Cam Newton into a tie. Cam Newton is incredibly talented. Like, I would say this. Top to bottom, Cam Newton is the most talented quarterback in the league, save for maybe Aaron Rodgers. But as you mentioned, the baggage is the big problem. Teddy Bridgewater honestly is not crazy talented, but Teddy Bridgewater is a man, he's a grown-up, and he understands offenses. So I do like Teddy Bridgewater in that regard. Cam Newton's incredibly talented, you give me that, but gosh, do you have to cater to him and all the crap that he puts up with. So that I'm not crazy about. I will put Cam Newton in at 11th. Who's your number 11?
My number 11 is Jared Goff. I think you could pretty much. I was amazed by what they did this year.
Yeah,
what the Rams did this year, but I think you can give a lot of credit there to the offensive line and I can't think of the running back.
Todd Gurley.
I mean, to be able to hand the ball off to Todd Gurley and him just bulldoze people, the defense, he changed the way the defense had to game plan.
Yeah.
So you can take a lot and plug in just about any quarterback you want there, and he's going to be okay.
All right, at number 10 for me, I've got Dak Prescott. I like a lot of things about Dak, but I'll tell you this, it's a lot of dink and dunk. And when Ezekiel Elliott's not there, he's just not the same guy. Like Dak, if everything's perfect around him, the offensive line's great, the defense is great, and you've got a good running back, he can make things work. But when things start falling apart a little bit, that's when Dak really starts to struggle. I told you this year he would take a step back. He definitely took a step back. I put him at number 10th.
Dunch. My number 10 is Garoppolo, and it's not that I think he's bad. 10 was mainly just because I don't know where he is. We haven't really seen him play much. He definitely turned around that team this year, so I'm excited to see where it goes. It was just I didn't know where else to put him, so I dropped him in at number 10, and I think he's probably a little bit less proven than some of the guys that I have above him on the list.
At number 9, I have Matt Stafford. I like a lot of things Matt Stafford does. He's a franchise quarterback, but quite frankly, he just can't seem to get this team to take the next step. I do think a lot of it is because of mismanagement with the Lions, so make no mistake, I like Stafford. But again, you watch some of these games. There's games they should be winning. They come down to the wire, and Stafford just can't take the next step. I think that's a problem, so I put him at 9th.
My number 9 is the newest quarterback to the NFC, and that is Alex Smith. He's aging. That's the main the main issue I have with him. Definitely the most proven quarterback, other than let's say Rodgers, Breeze, and Matt Ryan. So he could be moved up on this list. But if you're trying to win in the next 5 to 6 years, that's not who you want on your team.
Okay, at number 8, I have Jared Goff, the quarterback of the Rams. I'm again. His first year was awful. His second year was great. I told you I was going to hold off on him because I think he's a 3-year product that needs working. He's like a prototype that you've got to work on for the next 3 years. This is going to be his 3rd year. Let me see what happens this year. I think we saw a lot of great things. The kid has a heck of an arm, but he's also got to have a lot of things go right for him to work. If he doesn't have the right coaching, right players around him, he's not going to be great. So I don't think he's as talented as, say, maybe a Carson Wentz is, but I think he does have a heck of an arm. I think he's super, super smart. So Goff at number 8.
My number 8 is Matt Stafford. I think he's a great quarterback. They just need to put some pieces around there, and so he's
working with nothing.
Yeah, he really is working with nothing. But I also think that there are several guys in the NFC that you could put on that team that could get some things done.
At number 7 for me, that's where I'm going with Alex Smith. I think Alex Smith, he's very consistent. Like he's not going to throw a lot of picks. He's not going to he's not going to lose a lot of games. He wins a lot of the games he's supposed to win. He can go on the road and win games. So I put Alex Smith at number 7, just ahead of Jared Goff.
I'm shocked that I haven't heard a name from you yet. We argue about my number 7 every week. I mean, it seems like every week for this NFL season. My number 7 is Matt Ryan, and you consistently tell me that he's not a great quarterback, but you're going to rank him higher than I do. I don't get it. Matt Ryan, number 7.
At number 6, I have Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan, to me, is a better version of Alex Smith. Conservative. He's going to give you consistency. Here's the thing. He is not great, and that's been my argument. I've never said Matt Ryan is bad. Matt Ryan's a good quarterback. He's a franchise quarterback. I'd take him tomorrow. But at the same time, he's not an elite quarterback. He's not in that upper echelon. He is not Brady. He's not Aaron Rodgers. And my biggest complaint about him was last year after their Super Bowl run, everybody started telling me that Matt Ryan was elite. And that's the one word I will not use to describe him. Good? Sure. B+? Definitely. Elite? No chance. I do think he's good, though, and that's why I put him at number 6.
All right, my number 6 is Dak Prescott. I'm going a little bit of a RPO here, as they call it. My next 3 quarterbacks all can run and pass. Dak Prescott's the least of those.
So he's got Dak Prescott at number 6. At number 5 for me, I've got Jimmy Garoppolo. I've seen enough of Garoppolo. I watched him in New England. He has learned under Brady. He's learned under Belichick. And let me tell you, Belichick traded him to get back at Robert Kraft. There have been numerous reports coming out of New England. Everybody believes this guy can play. The Shanahans really don't ever miss on quarterbacks. That's how they found Kirk Cousins in the 4th round by the way. They knew what they were doing trying to get Garoppolo into San Francisco. He's also got pieces around him. I think San Francisco, kind of like the Rams this year did, San Francisco will be the one team that you are going to see pop next year. And the fact that they started blowing teams out at the end of this year, that is not a rarity. That's the new norm for the 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo's great. I've got him at 5.
No way. I mean, I like Garoppolo. Don't get me wrong. The 49ers are not. They're not making the playoffs next year. I mean, no way.
Seahawks falling apart.
Yeah, but the Rams are getting great.
Rams are good. Seahawks are falling apart, though. I mean, Cowboys. Cowboys, I don't think are getting back next year.
The next quarterback I have is the next RPO guy, and that's Teddy Bridgewater. It is a shame that he had the injury he did. Has it been 2 years ago? Almost 2 years ago? I would rank him higher if it wasn't for the unknown. A lot of guys don't even step back on a football field after the injury that he had. It just proves to me his athleticism and strength. And then I'm going to go ahead, finishing out, if it's okay with you, my RPO guys, and nobody can escape the pocket better than Russell Wilson. He's my number 4.
Oh, I love Russell Wilson, and I've got Russell Wilson at number 4 as well. I think Russell Wilson is absolutely an elite quarterback. When he came into the league, people kept telling me he's a game manager. I'm like, you're not watching the games. You're just looking at stats. Watch the games. Russell Wilson has been the one reason that offense has clicked for the past 3 years. He's not had an elite running back since Marshawn Lynch left. He's not had an elite receiving core ever. His best receiver ever was Percy Harvin, whose biggest accomplishment was what he did on special teams. So Russell Wilson has had hardly anything to work with and has led that offense to a Super Bowl twice, won once. I think he's absolutely a phenomenal quarterback. By the way, with a defensive coach, if he had an offensive mind with him, he would be even better than he is right now. I do put him at number 4.
My number 3 is Carson Wentz. Perhaps the best quarterback to enter the league in the last 3 years. 4 years, maybe. Time will only tell how good he is.
I definitely agree with that. I'm going to get to him in a minute. Number 3, I have Drew Brees. Drew Brees gives you experience. Drew Brees, by the way, uses the same trainer that Tom Brady uses. Worked out with the same workout guy. Drew Brees is a top-class guy. He completes a ton of passes. And it does not matter if you're down by 14 points, 20 points, 3 points, whatever. If you have Drew Brees and a quarterback, you're more than capable of coming back and winning a game. The Saints, by the way, got some good running backs. If they can just give him a really nice receiver and maybe one more pass rusher, the Saints are certainly capable of winning a Super Bowl, and I think they might have another one coming in the next couple of years. I have Drew Brees at 3.
Yep, I agree with that. I have him at my number 2. They really just need to fix defense, and if they can add a receiver, that's good. Some of the receivers, though, when they get traded away, like I think of the guy that was with the Saints 2 years ago and now plays for the Patriots.
Brandon Cooks.
They're great when they're in the dome, but then they get traded away and they kind of underperform. Cooks has not been what he was last year. So get a household name that's been in the league for a couple of years, bring him in there and help out that team a whole lot. I agree.
Well, Cooks hasn't been what he was last year, but that's a lot because of the Patriots system. And I mean, you're not going to get the same stats as a receiver there. What you'll see though is like this Sunday, he'll have 2 or 3 incredible plays, and that's really going to be about it. Like he might have 4 catches for over 100 yards because that's what the Patriots do. All right, at number 2, I have Carson Wentz. I think like you, Carson Wentz, since Andrew Luck and Russell Wilson came into the league, Carson Wentz is the best best drafted quarterback we've had since that draft. He is absolutely incredible. He can escape the pocket. The best way to describe him is similar to my number 1, Aaron Rodgers. Both of them are just playmakers. They're stars. It does not matter what is happening around the pocket. They can make a play and pull off a big touchdown. Remember that play against Washington this year where Carson Wentz had like 4 guys on top of him. It looked like it was a definite sack. He comes out of the sack and ends up scrambling for over 20 yards. It's one of the most incredible plays I've ever seen, one of the most frustrating plays I've ever seen as a Redskin fan, but that, my friends, is why Carson Wentz is absolutely incredible. Number one, again, I said I've got Aaron Rodgers. I think is the most talented quarterback in the league still. Now, my question with him is, what's happening with him in the injuries? Is he's not aging well? And what are the Packers going to give him to work with? Because he, like some of these other guys, has never had a top-notch running back, really hasn't had a great receiving core. That, I think, is a problem. So I do like Aaron Rodgers. We've got him at number one.
Yep, I also have Aaron Rodgers at number one. He's got some great pieces there. They can really do things in the next couple of years, assuming that he recovers well from this injury. So,
all right. So there's your quarterback rankings. We'll try and get those posted on the Facebook tonight. Please, again, chime in with who you think should be or where you would have these quarterbacks ranked. I've already had a comment over on Twitter as well. All right. Here's the next thing I want to get to. Chris, I kind of think the Patriots might be distracted. For one, Tom Brady came out with a documentary just a couple of weeks ago. The Patriots are infamous for kind of doing like LeBron does, and once the playoffs hit, they were completely off of any sort of media. Social media, regular media, they don't do interviews, they don't do anything like that, unless it's required by the NFL. Now Brady's gotten really into Brady, and it's getting kind of gross. Brady's getting into the TB12 method, and he's getting into, all the different things he likes to do, where he doesn't drink beer, and this is how he's going to manage his body. And, he had the documentary come out. It's like Brady versus the world or whatever it was. And then Belichick had a documentary come out, and it's him and Parcells. And then you had the issue that happened with Brady and Kraft and Belichick, and I'm looking around. I got to tell you, of the 8 Super Bowls the Patriots have been to, this one's different than the other 7 because the Patriots have never been this distracted. Now, here's the question, though. Is this distraction real, or is this a smokescreen thrown at the Eagles to make them think they're distracted? Because the Patriots have done things like that before, not to this extent, but I mean, like the whole ball deflation thing. The biggest problem with that wasn't the balls being deflated. Brady was better playing with the regular ball than with the deflated ball. The problem is they got into the head of the Seahawks, and the Seahawks thought the whole game they're playing with this deflated ball, and like they're destined to lose. That creates a problem. So is this a smoke screen created by the Patriots, or are these distractions real?
I don't think it's either one, really. I mean, I just think the Patriots are in the news a little bit more. I don't know that they need to just be as quiet and shut out from anything as they used to be. They're proven now. I just think it is what it is. It's nothing, no scandal going on. I don't know that it's any news here. The Patriots are going to, come out and do what they've done all season. So.
I think there's something to it. I don't think this is completely void of reason to look at this and go, there's something there with the Patriots being a bit distracted, because Belichick, this is so unlike him, and it's so unlike his teams. And if you go back and you watch the Patriots when they played the Dolphins earlier in the year, it was unlike any game I've ever watched with Belichick. He sat down at one point during the game. Sat down. I've never seen Belichick do that. I think this stuff with he and Brady and Robert Kraft, I think he was really ticked off by Robert Kraft. And so that's why I think this. After the Super Bowl this weekend, well, first let's get to this. I think something's going to happen after the Super Bowl. I think something's capable of happening after the Super Bowl, and it's going to cause headlines for a really long time. It will be discussed. Chris, what is your Super Bowl prediction between the Eagles and the Patriots?
It's really tough.
So the line's back down to 4, by the way. The line's at 4.
Yeah. So I'm going to give the nod with that line to the Eagles. 6 was way too much. If I could have locked in, I should have locked in at 6. I would have. 5 is probably too much. 4.5, 4 is really close. I think that game is probably going to come down to 3 or 4 points. I could easily see this game going a lot like the AFC Championship game did, where the Patriots get down a couple touchdowns and end up having to come back in the fourth quarter. Tom Brady is the best quarterback for fourth quarter comebacks ever to play the game.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, he's the best quarterback ever to play the game. Let's go ahead and give him that as well, too. But by far, fourth quarter comebacks, better than Elway. Elway was the master of it. Tom Brady's even better. So I could see it going that way. I don't know that the defense, New England defense, is good enough to stop the Philadelphia offense. And that's going to be the question, is how far do they get down, and can they come back from it?
Well, the Patriots' biggest obstacle is going to be their defense. And I do think that's a problem. I think the distractions are a problem. Here's the one big prediction I'm going to give you for this game. If the Patriots win, something will happen in this game. And your big takeaway, you're going to leave that game, and you're going to think Belichick is the greatest coach of all time. I don't know what he's going to do, but I can tell you right now, he's going to do something where you will come away with that thought if the Patriots win. Because last year the thought was Tom Brady's the best quarterback of all time. Nobody talked about Belichick. Now Brady's been really into Brady. Brady and Kraft are really tight together. Belichick wanted to move on. Belichick's going to make a point in this game to make it about him and not Brady. I fully believe that. And that's why I believe the Patriots are a little bit distracted. But here's my big prediction. And I'm going to juice this up a little bit. I want to put yourself in the shoes of a Philadelphia Eagle player. I want you to pretend you're one of the 50 guys on that roster. Tomorrow, imagine it's the day before the Super Bowl. Tomorrow is one of the biggest days of your life. Compare it to like your wedding day. Remember your wedding day? It's a really big day. You've done all the planning, the prep work. You've gone through fights, great times, wins and losses, injuries. It's been 2 weeks since your last game. And now you're playing the machine, the dynasty, the GOATs. Can you sleep? You wake up at 7 a.m., now what? It's going to be a full 11 hours until this game starts. You go get breakfast, and it's now 8. You don't report into the stadium until 3:30, by the way, so you've got to get through the night before, the morning of, the time between breakfast and lunch, then you drive to the stadium, then you warm up, put your gear on, go back and warm up again, run out into the stadium, and now it's finally the coin toss. You've never been here before, and your entire life has led up to this moment. Don't tell me these guys aren't nervous or tense. Now, all of that is technically true for both teams, but I'm going to say this. It's the 8th time for the Patriots. It's the 8th time for Brady and Belichick. It's their 3rd time in the past 4 years. They know these motions. They've been here before. You can't tell me you can't tell me this all means nothing. The motions, the nerves, it all means something. And just like I went with Alabama in the College Football National Championship, which was an incredibly close game, I'm going to put my money on the Patriots winning a really close one against the Eagles. I think it comes down to the wire, just like you said. But give me the Patriots. And I'm going to say this one will be 34-31, high-scoring game. 4th quarter comeback yet again for Brady. And I believe Belichick, at the end of the game, I think there's a 75% chance Belichick will retire. Now, it will not be that night. Because Belichick's not one for giving speeches. It's going to be a letter the next day. A letter that he has written to Kraft, perhaps by his agent, where he's going to say, I've loved my time here with the Patriots, but it is time for me to move on. He might stay in the NFL and get like a GM job or something. I don't think he'll coach again. He very well just may retire from football altogether, and we may never hear from him again. But I believe this is very likely Belichick's last rodeo. Now, it would not surprise me if he wants to stick around for a year or two more, but I think with all the stuff that's piled up, and Belichick looks at his team, they're aging, he looks at his defense, he's letting both coordinators go this year, there's no rumors of who they're going to go out and hire to replace them. I think all of that leads to Belichick retiring at the end of this game.
Yeah, I can definitely see that happen. I'm not going to argue with you on that. So, yeah, I could also see some like trickery type stuff, especially like early on by the Patriots to try to mess up the Philadelphia defense, leading to Belichick as the best coach of all time.
Yeah. Now, again, I think something will happen. I don't know what it will be. Something's going to happen where your takeaway on Sunday night will be, oh my gosh, Belichick is amazing. It's not going to be about Brady. It will be about Belichick if they win this game. All right, so we're going to end our podcast with our news segment. We introduced this last week. One announcement after this. Chris is going to give us his college basketball top 10. Now, I got to cue some music for this, or it just isn't right. So, college basketball top 10. Here we go, Chris.
All right, in the top 10, I have 2 teams falling out. I'll go ahead and give you those 2 teams that were in my top 10 last week, no longer in the top 10. Those 2 teams are West Virginia, had a bad loss at home against a Kentucky team that is not the Kentucky team of the past 3 or 4 years, and Oklahoma, who was very vulnerable against Baylor yesterday. Those 2 teams are out of the top 10. New to the top 10, and actually in my number 10 spot, is Texas Tech. Texas Tech has been amazing this year, continue to move up the ranks, unknown until the beginning of the season. Look out for them come tournament time. Number 9, Cincinnati Bearcats. They continue to be solid. A little bit weak schedule, kind of in a weak conference, but I see them being a 3 or 4 seed going, or excuse me, 2 or 3 seed going to the tournament. Have you seen Cincinnati play?
I've honestly have not watched the Bearcats play right now. I honestly, with college basketball, I watch a little bit here and there. Like I watched Kansas last week. I watched a lot of Duke games, watched some Kentucky games. I don't really watch a ton of college basketball until we get about mid-February. But I know they've been hot this year. I think they were 19-2.
Yeah, they don't. I think they have 2 losses. Yeah. Moving up, this team actually didn't lose but dropped. They're maintaining in my top 10 about where they were. Is Michigan State. Watch out for this team to drop though. They have a ton of distractions with what's gone on. They're winning by 2 right now against
Penn State
at home. So a lot of distractions going on with this team. I have them ranked lower than they are in both the AP and the coaches poll. Tom Izzo is under a lot of heat to come out against some of the things that happened there at Michigan State. Be interested to see what happens.
So I like dropping a team down for distractions. I'm going to give you something else that's happening because I just put up the scores. Cincinnati, the team you brought up, down by 3 at the half to Houston, and UVA, who you've not gotten to yet. It was an 8-point game. They are now up by 10 over Louisville, so that one has been going back and forth so far. So that's one to keep your eye on.
Yeah, Louisville's going to get crushed. UVA is a second-half team, and Louisville only scored 26 points in the first half, is I think what I just saw.
Yeah.
Next, a new team, and actually coming in at 7th. I skipped out on them last week, but they've proven themselves this week with a couple of very nice wins, is Kansas.
Okay.
A lot of seniority on that team. Look for them to make a really deep run in the tournament. The only SEC team in the top 10, Auburn, I have at number 6. So very surprised about what they've done. I knew they had a bunch of good recruits, but I thought the FBI investigation and scandals going on at Auburn was going to drop them down a little bit. Bruce Pearl's done a great job, though, of bringing that team together.
Completely agree, yeah.
Number 5, I have a team that I have ranked at number 2 last week, but suffered an at-home win. Suffered an at-home loss. Followed up by a very, very nice win against Notre Dame this past weekend is Duke. I know, CJ, you're a fan. Where do you rank Duke right now? They're my number 5.
I'd honestly have them right at 5, maybe slightly lower. My thing with that loss this weekend, I watched it, and I'm bummed out because I'm not a big UVA fan at all. I can't stand them. So I was a little bummed out in that regard, but I watched it and I thought, the reason Duke lost this game was because they just made a lot of young mistakes. There were just a lot of shots taken that should have never been taken. They got into foul trouble and they couldn't hit free throws. And that's been the biggest obstacle for this Duke team is they cannot hit free throws. If they can get that down and cut down on the young mistakes, that team down low is so incredible and they're capable of coming back against anybody. That part was very encouraging. But they've got to cut down on the young mistakes because Virginia won that game for one reason. They were more experienced. So I completely agree with where you've got them at 5.
Speaking of free throws, and this didn't make major news, Kentucky had a great comeback against West Virginia, which I think could catalyst a turn in their season. Obviously a huge Kentucky fan. They went 18 for 18 from the free throw line in the second half of that game.
That's a big deal.
It's huge, and it can be very big in tournament time.
Oh, yeah. But that is a big deal. There's a group of Harvard students who, I have to find it, but they basically just picked, one guy just picked teams based on who shot free throws better, and just picked it based on it. Put everything else down. Was like, I'm going to pick it based on that. And he had like one of the best ranking brackets that year, just picking it based on that. So it's a huge piece come tournament time.
Yeah, my number 4 team is Xavier. They've played very nice. So pretty again unknown early on. I have them a little bit higher than some of the other polls have them right now. I expect them to play very well in the tournament too. Number 3, really unproven for now. A lot of people have these at their number 1, but they just haven't really played anybody. I have at Villanova. And I think I have them moving up because Duke fell below them from 4 last week to 3 this week.
Okay.
Purdue, I am hot on Purdue. They're my number 2 team, moving up again above Duke.
That is the one team nobody wants to play right now.
Well, they can do things that just can't be stopped. No other player can defend Isaac Haas when he wants the ball. I'm 7'2", probably. I don't know how much he weighs. Let's go with 300 pounds. He's a Haas, for lack of a better word. And then number 1, nobody plays defense like a Tony Bennett coach team. They're winning now against a very good and highly ranked Louisville team by 10. UVA.
Yeah, I'll see if we can't get a score update on that UVA game. I mean, this right now, honestly, is the best team in the country. My big thing with UVA, and I was telling a friend this who's a big UVA fan, is let me know what happens with this team by the Sweet 16. Like, get back to me then on this team, because this team is known for falling apart come tournament time, and I don't know that this style of play is capable of winning a tournament. Should be noted, by the way, we mentioned that score about 5 minutes ago. Still the same score, 42-32. Nobody's scored since then.
43.
Well, okay, got a free throw.
UVA got a free throw.
Okay. All right, so here's the news. Some of it's sad, some of it's good. So we'll start off with the sad news. Don't leave me yet. Here's the news. As of next week will be the last podcast for the CJ Sweat Show. It will be the last one. I mean, like, listen, I've been absolutely blown away by all the support you guys have given me. It has been absolutely amazing to do this podcast every single Wednesday night. But I also know when you see something grow, stagnant may not be the right word, but when you see something not grow at the rate you want it to, and you feel the need to call it quits, you call it quits. So we're going to be ending the CJ Sweat Show. Now, that does not mean our podcast will be over, and it does not mean we won't be here every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. Instead, what we are doing is we are introducing a new podcast that will be called Virginia Sports Report. And what this will be is we're going to be a podcast that will discuss all of the collegiate teams in the state of Virginia. So if you're a VMI fan, a Radford fan, a UVA fan, Virginia Tech fan, Liberty, VCU, Old Dominion, George Mason, maybe even Virginia Union, Virginia State, the Trojans. I could keep going on.
Roanoke College.
What's that?
Roanoke College.
Roanoke College. How about Virginia University of Lynchburg, which even the people in Lynchburg aren't aware exists, but it does. UVA Wise. Which UVA Wise is like in the middle of nowhere. There's so many jokes there. There's nothing more apart from UVA than UVA Wise. That's bad. I apologize to any fans we have that went there. But that will be starting. So next week's going to be the last episode of the CJ Sweat Show. Our plan is to debut our new podcast on March 7th, just in time for a March Madness. We're going to be talking about all of the great things happening across the Commonwealth of Virginia and the collegiate teams here. We're going to be bringing on athletes, coaches, writers for interviews. It's going to be a lot of fun. So again, next week is the last CJ Sweat Show. And then after that, 1 month after that, we will become the Virginia Sports Report, and we will be bringing you that every Wednesday night. I want to thank all of you guys for your support. Everything you've done means a lot. If you have any ideas for the next podcast, for what we're trying to do, please let me know. I'm very interested to hear what you think about that. This is the CJ Sweat Show. Have a good night. Hold on real quick. Got a shout out. Who's a shout out to?
Shout out to Johnny Roeder. Happy birthday, Johnny.
Yeah, that should have been part of the news. Happy birthday, Johnny. Have a good night.